This is the NTT IndyCar Series. With live coverage of today's practice, this is IndyCar Radio.
The 50th anniversary of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Practice session number 2 as we get ready to go qualifying a little bit later on today before we have the centerpiece of this fabulous weekend event coming up on Sunday afternoon. I'm Mark James, happy to have you with us, and Davey Hamilton. A rather uneventful practice session yesterday for most. A couple of issues for some drivers, most notably Pato O'Ward. But at the end of the day, Will Power was fastest at a 67.3277. Erickson, Kirkwood, Armstrong, Rosenquist. Then Newgarden, Pinot, Herta, Lundgaard, and Dixon the top 10. So Penske, Andretti, Ganassi, they all look pretty strong out of the box.
They sure do, Mark. I mean, they're the ones to look at. And we talked about this yesterday, that Andretti team, they unload here fast, and they have that for the last 3 or 4 years. Just they have something about this racetrack. Obviously, Kirkwood and Colton both have wins here. I expect them to pull out a little something special today. I think this 1 hour session before qualifying, it's going to be quite a bit different. It's obviously, as we know, it's cool here, Mark. The fog is off the ground. It's a high cap, but sun's not poking through. Definitely cool. The only cars on track earlier than these guys are the vintage cars, the 5000s, the Indy cars, the Formula 1 cars from history. So it's gonna take a while, I think, for these cars to get up to temperature and up to speed. Did
we learn anything from yesterday in terms of how that tire allotment is going to lay out?
It was unanimous this morning going through the garage area, Mark. The alternate tire, it goes off just like we've seen in St. Pete. It's got 1 lap in it. I mean, that's about it. I mean, as far as high speed. Now, I think they're going to learn more in the final warm-up session, Mark, on how long that alternate tire will go without losing too much speed. You got to remember, it's about how much speed you lose and how much pit time you lose, if it's worth pitting or not. So I don't think they have that figured out yet, but they do know, and these drivers have the pressure on them right now for qualifying, is they have 1 strong, good lap on that tire to make a run, and you don't want to make a mistake during that lap. For example, I think Graham said on his best lap yesterday, a red flag came out. Well, that kind of messed him up because that tires were already through their, halfway through their good cycle, and then he didn't have a good tire to finish the lap on.
Part of the appeal of this outstanding event year in and year out is the incredible weather in Southern California. Let's get the specifics on that by welcoming in Jonathan Grace.
Thanks, Mark, and good morning, everybody. A little bit cloudy, an atypical day here in Southern California, but we are by the coast, so a little marine layer. It's 70 degrees Fahrenheit on the track, 58, just a little below 60 Fahrenheit ambient. And while track time is precious and important here around the streets of Long Beach, it is set to be mostly sunny and about 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer for race day. So I'm not sure if conditions as they stand are necessarily representative of what we'll see on Sunday, guys.
We talked about the top 10, Davey, those that struggled for speed yesterday. Schwartzman, Rasmussen, Stingray Robb, Callum-Ilott, Alexander Rossi, who's had a good start to the season, struggled a little bit. Devlin DeFrancisco, Reedus VK, and Jacob Abel. It was a struggle for the Dale Coyne team in practice yesterday.
Yeah, it really was. I think the Coyne team, the Uncos team, they're definitely struggling a bit. Or the Ray Hall team, obviously Graham even mentioned yesterday, if I recall, that they're just not there yet. They haven't found it. Obviously, Foster was the fastest of that team, but not where they want to be by any stretch. So they have a long ways to go and to find that additional speed. We know that they added some laps to this race. It's going to put a little more strategy into it when it comes to race time, Mark. But what I think a lot of teams are going to do, I talked to the Prema team, and I feel like they're going to split their strategy no matter what happens. But now Schwartzman did okay. He was fairly fast, for a new team here and a new driver here as well.
Well, we'll have 3 talented turn announcers throughout the course of this weekend. Jake Query is got a unique spot. It's one of the most unique spots in all of the courses in which we cover action, Jake Query, because you get them into turn number 1, but you won't be done with them once they clear your view there.
Yeah, and as I look down into turn number 1, I just noticed that they were temporarily waving the caution flag there as I'm just now taking the look. As they roar up Shoreline, it is a left-handed turn that is turn number 1. And then, as you had mentioned, Mark, it's one of the more picturesque areas that we see throughout the course of the season in the NTT IndyCar Series around the famous fountain area of Long Beach, California. And then once they navigate their way through that, it is a right-handed turn to come back up the opposite direction of Shoreline. That then sets up for a left-hander onto Pine Avenue. This is an area of Long Beach, California of shopping and entertainment, and always big crowds. A Ferris wheel will greet them just to the inside of turn number 6, which is a left-handed turn that they take on to Pine Avenue, but they're not on there long. They go underneath the Leona Bridge, the Labor's International Union of North America, and when they do that, they have to set up wide for a right-hander that is turn number 7. That is when they come into the view of Nick Yeoman. Nick, it is a busy part of the racetrack. It is a fast part of the racetrack, and it's always good to be here in Long Beach, California.
Jake, I think I say this every year. The cars sound so cool as they buzz past you down there in turn number 1. As you mentioned, we'll pick them up from you as they leave turn 6 and 7 and head down to the right-hander of turn number 8. That is one of the Prema machines making his way that part of the racetrack. That was Robert Schwartzman. Here comes his teammate Callum Ilott and the points leader Alex Palou. And back into Palou's car, steps out a bit there at right-hander of turn number 8. Then it's a long trip down the back straightaway, the bumpy back straightaway. All the drivers want to keep their cars over to driver's left to get a good entrance into the corner. That's where Palou navigates now. After he leaves the right-hander of turn number 10, things get pretty technical as they come into the view of Michael Young.
Need Nick Yeoman, and it is what some would say the 405 on a Friday afternoon coming into Long Beach. It is basically a traffic jam down here in the iconic hairpin portion of this course. They basically come out of your view there with turn 9, that right-hander, then have a left-hander of turn number 10. This is actually a parking lot. If you go on Google Earth, you can actually still see the tire marks from July, August of this year. You'll be able to see where this racetrack runs through that parking lot. Then they will make that right-hander in that hairpin nearly 180 degrees. Everybody slows down into first gear. We actually see Christian Rasmussen slowly working his way through this portion of the course right now. Through that first gear, an opportunity to potentially get a nose up underneath your competitor, but extremely hard to complete the pass as everybody comes through here, sometimes too wide, sometimes a parking lot. It is such an exciting corner, and then they will streak down shoreline, palm trees to the right, to the left, the Queen Mary to the north, the Pacific to the left. It is not a warm day, an overcast day, but still a beautiful sight here. Turn number 11 of the iconic Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. 20
cars have turned laps so far in this session, Davey. 38 minutes remaining in this 45-minute session. There's an hour-long window to get this session in, and by the fact that we see maybe 4 or 5 cars that have yet to exit the pits and start turning laps, that gives us an indication that just like the sessions yesterday, it's all in an effort to manage tires.
Yeah, it's tire management. Exactly right. As we just seen car go off there, I think that was Colton Herta actually went off down and then that long back straightaway. Must have got it in that bump. But you're right. It's all about tire management right now, making sure that they have the proper tires for qualifying and, more importantly, have good fresh tires for this race. And I see majority of the cars, matter of fact, all the cars, but the few that haven't been out yet, just did a warm-up lap, are on the primary tire. And I think that this portion of practice, put a used tire on there, try to get really good balance for your car, Mark, for the race, and just see how long this primary tire is going to last.
Jake Query, soon you will see Marcus Ericsson coming into your view of that Bryant-sponsored machine. He works his way around the fountain, and I believe that's Christian Rasmussen running side by side with him.
So we will wait for them to come through this area. Marcus Ericsson, as a matter of fact, just went through turn number 6. Nicky's got Colton Herta behind him as he works his way now through turn number 7.
Yeah, Christian Rasmussen looked a little aggressive here in practice ahead of Marcus Ericsson. See a couple more cars nose to tail. That's Felix Rosenquist and the rookie of Louis Foster. Foster swings to the outside, and he will make that pass heading down to turn number 9. This runoff area has gotten plenty of work, Michael. Plenty of cars headed your way in 10.
As they make their way through the hairpin, just as they exit turn number 11, that's where the alternate timing and scoring line is. A lot of drivers ducking into pit lane. We see the machine of Christian Rasmussen ducking into pit lane. Now Alexander Rossi, so both of the Carpenter's cars coming in right now. Renus VK now exiting the hairpin, and we'll keep our eye on Nolan Siegel. He's the last of that dozen of cars or so, and he will duck into pit lane as well.
37 minutes remaining in the session. McLaughlin is the fastest thus far. Kirkwood, Schwartzman, Lundgaard, and Foster the top 5. Then Award, Siegel, Simpson, David Malukas, and Alexander Rossi. Jake, Davey Hamilton and I were talking yesterday. You may get to play the role of a traffic cop, or at least have a bird's eye view like a traffic cop, because if we get pit stops under clean and green conditions, Jake, you've got a bird's eye view of the fact that blend-in line at the exit of the pits. Going to create some interesting scenarios as divers make that hard dive into left-hander, which is turn number 1.
And that is always the key, as Alex Palou is the car that you just heard go roaring past, and then just behind him, Scott McLaughlin works his way into turn number 1. You are correct, Mark. When they come off a pit road and blend in, there are markers here that always tell them just exactly how far it is before you have to make that left-handed turn, and it represents itself by the number of yards. It is just 500 yards before that turn number 1 when they blend themselves in. So you have cars that are trying to get to speed. You have cars that are at full speed setting up for that turn. It is always an interesting viewpoint. Marcus Ericsson is the car that you just heard that went through in turn number 1. Devlin DiFrancesco to my right just went through turn number 6.
Nick Yeoman, you've watched turn number 9 for a number of years. I was there for a number of years prior to you, and once upon a time that was a primary passing zone, but you and I were talking before we went on today that while it still may be a passing zone, I don't know, because of the bump that's at the entrance to that turn to driver's left, that's quite the primary passing zone that it used to be.
Yeah, it's kind of went from a primary passing spot to a place where your day can unravel very quickly, and we've already seen in practice that runoff area being used by a lot of drivers. First, I saw Kippen Simpson down there. Santino Ferrucci's been to the runoff. Davey Hamilton touched on Colton Herta, cooked his left front tire. He had to use that runoff area. All the drivers want to stay to the left side of the track. See Scott Dixon, he'll light up the Firestones down in that part of the racetrack. But Mark, all the way up against the outside wall appears to be the bumpiest part of the racetrack. So it is very hard. You got to have all 4 tires on the ground to get these cars to slow down to make that right-hand turn. That's been very difficult over the years. So the Brave will still make it work and pull off some passes down there, but it is very, very difficult as we watch drivers monster truck their way to the entrance of turn 9.
And Michael Young, your racing groove has already been laid in. I think it was done so years ago, but it's interesting to watch him go through that hairpin because they put those right sides right on that red and white curving to driver's left at the bottom of that hairpin.
Yeah, and it's all about the entrance to this turn. You want to either get yourself set up, slow down, and then let that car drift and gain speed going down this long front straightaway of Shoreline. They'll touch just at the exit of turn number 11 as Joseph Newgarden goes by right now. But understeer the key. I saw Scott Dixon come through just a couple of seconds ago, and the bumps down here in the hairpin of turn number 11 causing understeer. Really saw that car skip as he went through, but there's Will Power just made his way through. Hung it tight on both the entrance and exit. So too Marcus Armstrong as he heads down that front straightaway.
Let's welcome Ryan Marine in for the first time today. Good morning, Ryan.
Hey, good morning, Mark. Down here at the pit-in section of the pit lane just about 5 minutes or so ago, both of the Prema Racing cars came to the pit lane more or less in unison. Robert Schwartzman and Callum Eilert, and right now their crews are making some adjustments after some early running in this session. This Prema Racing team, it's the first time that the team has come here to Long Beach, and many of the crew members had precious little experience coming to the U.S., let alone an event like the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. And so over the past couple of days, I can't tell you the number of times I've seen crew members in that Prema red walking around with their phones out, the cameras out, taking pictures, just soaking up everything that is special about this event. It was really neat to see them getting an appreciation for one of the great events in North American motorsports. But right now, their focus is on these 2 race cars. The crews on both cars currently very busy making adjustments mechanically to the rear of both cars and the front of Robert Schwartzman's car at this moment. So they're still looking for a little bit of speed, but that's to be expected for a new team coming to Long Beach for the first time.
All 27 cars now have turned laps here with 32 minutes remaining in this session. It's Palou, Newgarden, McLaughlin, Kirkwood, Will Power, then Robert Schwartzman. We see Joseph Newgarden has just cleared the timing and scoring loop. He has worked his way up to P2 now. Speaking of Joseph Newgarden, he's going to pop into the view of Jake Query very, very soon. Jake is currently P2 with a time of 67.989 as he heads toward turn 6.
And he's making good time because Joseph Newgarden now, Nick, already set sail for turn number 7.
Yeah, all the way down the back straightaway, a cherry red and white Chevrolet for Team Penske this weekend. Newgarden, that car wiggles on the braking of turn number 9. He accelerates into turn 10.
Sets up for turn number 11, hits the braking point, jumps through this corner. Very bumpy for Joseph Newgarden, and he decides enough's enough. Let's go to Jake Query.
Scott Dixon just had a problem. It is the right rear tire of Scott Dixon that clearly has gone flat. Now, Davey Hamilton might be able to add on this. I noticed as Dixon was coming up shoreline, the car hiccup. That would be because of that issue that happened on the right tire as he is in the runoff area here. But he settled into a little bit of an imbalance that set just before turn number 6. And I noticed that Christian Lundgaard had the same spot. All of a sudden, a little bit of smoke kick up. Lundgaard now actually is going through, I take that back. That is his teammate Nolan Siegel that just went through turn number 6. But Lundgaard had the same spotted area where Dixon now, as he sits in the runoff area, went through, where I just think that this area on shoreline, Davey, this is always the case. There just seems to be in the middle and the apex of the turn a crowding in the street that can create a balance challenge for these cars. I think that, and obviously a piece of debris that cut that tire, just got Scott Dixon.
Yeah, you know, one thing about that corner, you're right, Jake. It looks like the easiest part of the racetrack. It's a really wide entrance. It's a super wide exit to that corner, but it's very difficult because the little rise in the crown that of the natural street just really puts you off that outside. It looks to me, and without seeing a replay, I'm thinking that Scott Dixon may hit the wall on entry. You try to get to the far right as you can, and to make that corner as open as you can, and you come close to that outside wall, and it looks like he must have touched that outside wall. There is a black mark on that wall right where there's a break for the safety workers.
He did more than touch it, Nick Yeoman. We saw the replay on our end.
He had that thing all the way to driver's right and smacked it. I mean, he caught with the right front, too. It's actually impressive that wasn't more of a catastrophic accident because he hit it very, very hard. And that rate of speed that you're hauling down to turn number 1, I'd say, all in all, Scott Dixon got away pretty lucky. But there's definitely some significant damage to the right side of that car.
Now, Davey, I'm not talking about being Belle Isle bumpy because very few things are. But we're getting a lot of looks at cars at ground level. And I'm going to tell you what, this thing seems to have roughed up a bit since just a year ago.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, that left side is so brutal. I mean, but matter of fact, when I'm on track giving rides, I brake before it. I lift off the brakes, let it go over the bumps, and I apply the brakes again just to make sure I don't lock those brakes. It's really tough. I mean, as you can see, tires are coming completely off the ground, and you're right, Nick, on Scott Dixon's car. It got the side pod. It looks like it was pretty significant hit. I did not get to see a replay on that, but it looks like a significant hit.
Michael Young.
We talked, Jake Query and I, on our way to the track this morning, talked with Pato O'Ward. He said with this hybrid, first time we've run it here on the streets of Long Beach, that has accentuated these bumps with that heavier car. Trying to negotiate these cars through these streets is double what it was just 1 year ago.
Jonathan Grace has a bird's eye view of the proceedings to the PNC Bank Machine crew.
Yeah, guys, I'm standing just behind the wall, and there's a fairly significant amount of damage to the side, cosmetically, of Scott Dixon's car. The underside of the floor has been scraped. That'll require some larger repairs later on, but the crew is just checking the suspension front and rear. They're wiggling parts around. They've got new suspension components out. There are definite scuffs on the sides of both the front and rear right Firestone tires. Those are off, but the crew is going to give the car a little bit of a once-over, and now I'm finally starting to see some suspension components come off on the rear right. I'll get you more information specifically as we get it.
You're defending race winner, Davey, and when you're trying to figure out how your tires are going to stack throughout the course of the weekend, boy, if he misses 28 minutes of practice time, that's significant for that race team.
Yeah, not good, right? I mean, I know this is just a final practice before qualifying, and they can rebound from it. There's no question about it, but man, every second on this track you want in. And just like we talked the hybrid, you're right, Mike, the hybrid units is so heavy on the back of these race cars. I think spring rates are changing. It's going over the bumps a little bit harsher. They're trying to have more ride height for that heavier weight car, and it's catching them all off guard just a little bit.
So we are at 27 minutes remaining in this session now, and we've got Joseph Newgarden as your fastest right now at 67.615. Then Alex Below is second fastest, and Will Power, then Scott McLaughlin and Kyle Kirkwood. Dixon was sixth fastest. Erickson, Schwartzman, DeFrancesco, Lundgaard through the top 10. Louis Foster's 11th fastest, then Pato O'Ward, Nolan Siegel, Alexander Rossi, Kiffin Simpson. David Maluka, 16th fastest, then Armstrong, Robb, Eilot, and Rasmussen. 21st fastest is Herta, 22nd is Rosenquist, 23rd is Rahal, 24th is VK, 25th is Connor Daly, 26th is Santino Ferrucci, and 27th is Jacob Abel. So again, Davey, just like yesterday, we're seeing some teams and drivers that we saw struggle yesterday, struggle today. One of them, most notably, Graham Rahal, who was none too pleased when we talked to him post-practice yesterday.
Yeah, he's in that 23rd spot right there. You're right. He said, man, we have a lot to learn and a lot to gain in times, and he's definitely down on that list. Although his teammate, Foster, he's in 11th position. They have found a little bit of speed there, but Graham is definitely struggling, no question about it. And then, you look at the bottom chart, Abel was struggling yesterday. How about Ferrucci? Just not where he needs to be. We've seen him in the runoff area already, locking those brakes up. Connor Daly, VK, a lot of teams struggling this morning for sure.
Yeah, they continue to struggle. And to give you an idea of the rest of our schedule today, at 11:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern time, we'll have complete coverage of knockout qualifying on the Firestone Fast 6. And then tomorrow, join us at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 o'clock Eastern time for a 30-minute warm-up session. And then at 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4 o'clock Eastern, flag-to-flag coverage of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. And Davey, one more stop on the schedule at Barber Motorsports Park before we get to turn our full attention for the month of May to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Sanzio Grand Prix and then, of course, the Indianapolis 500.
That's right. I mean, it's coming fast, isn't it, Mark? I mean, we always want to get to Indy, but the great thing is this race here, what a celebration it is. 50th anniversary of this Long Beach Grand Prix. So cool to be able to be here and enjoy it. But Barber, I always tell people, if you haven't been to Barber, and who thought there'd be a great track in Alabama, just not knowing that area, but what a fantastic event, a speedway, the museum there with motorcycles, just a great venue. So if you haven't been there, that's one that definitely should be on your bucket list.
And we're looking at Colton Herta. He just crossed the start-finish line, and Jake Query, the Gamebridge machine, comes into your view.
Colton Herta in through turn number 1, and as a matter of fact, he had a car in front of him that had to kind of jump on the brakes a little bit because Herta was getting up to speed. Working his way now around the fountain area is Colton Herta, of course, a California kid. You always hear him talk about how much he loves having King Taco when he comes back to his home state. Colton Herta now works his way turn number 5, setting up for the left-hander that is turn number 6. Does so with no issue whatsoever. Swings just a little bit wide. Colton Herta now with Devlin DiFrancesco behind him and Joseph Newgarden setting up for turn number 7.
Colton Herta on the brakes for the right-hander of turn number 8. Navigates that part of the racetrack very smoothly. He's a former winner of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Got it done in 2021. The driver from California in that yellow and black machine leaves turn number 9.
And he led the field back in 2022, did Colton Herta. Very wide swing through the hairpin here in turn number 11. Gets back into the throttle and puts those left sides right up against that outside retaining wall.
So good lap. We'll see what timing and scoring says for Colton Herta. He's trying to move up a little bit, Davey. He's been mired around 21st, 22nd for most of the session.
Yeah, surprisingly 22nd still right now on the scoring chart as he passes that timeline, but this could be his good lap. You got to remember on these primary tires, the sweet spot could be 4 or 5 laps into these, so you can set a good lap obviously later in the run on these primaries than you could the alternates.
Efforts continue to make repairs to the car of Scott Dixon, Jonathan.
Yeah, Mark, the whole crew is pouring over the rear right. The only part they have appeared to replace so far is that rear right toe link. It was definitively bent. It's not supposed to be bent. It's a straight piece. They've got a new one on. It looks like the front right escaped any significant damage aside from the tire, but the rear right was not as lucky. Significant chunk is missing from the rim. That tire has been completely cut down, so the team is finishing some repairs. As to the cosmetics on the floor, they've put a nice piece of race tape. If the car was going by, you wouldn't even know it was damaged. So I think Scott Dixon might just get a little bit more running in this session.
Yeah, that would be so very, very important. We're keeping an eye on Alexander Rossi, two-time winner here and a pole sitter. He went back-to-back, in fact, did Alexander Rossi. Java House sponsorship on that car as he works his way around the fountain, and Alexander Rossi, see his car shoot by him. Pick up Alexander Rossi, Jake.
Alexander Rossi, of course, with that ECR team now. Works his way through turn number 6. Swings it wide, a little bit more wide than last time by. Alexander Rossi now sets up right-hander turn number 7.
Yep, he's all by himself entering turn number 8. The gray nose of that machine now pointed down, see sideway as Alexander Rossi keeps that car to driver's left. He'll get on the brakes and slow that thing for the right-hander of turn number 9. He's being chased by David Malukas as they all head to the hairpin.
And he works his way through the hairpin as he has a Junco's car diving into pit lane right in front of him. David Malukas will caught it at least about 2 seconds behind him. Alexander Rossi, clean track in front of him down shoreline.
22 minutes, just under 22 minutes remaining in this session. Newgard and Lundgaard single up to P3. Alex Palou, 4th fastest. Will Power, O'Ward, and McLaughlin. So, Davey, just like yesterday, it looks like Team Penske, for one, is unloaded pretty quick. And I think all in all, the folks at Arrow McLaren have to be pretty happy.
Yeah, Lundgaard shooting up there. Not a surprise. I mean, we know they're always fast. I mean, Potter O'Ward, he's in that 6th spot as well. Found some, concrete yesterday in his car and bent the back of his car up as well. But right now, that team is looking really good.
Now, Ryan Marine.
Brian Barnhart calls the strategy for Arrow McLaren and for Christian Lundgaard. Car is in the pits right now, making some adjustments. What have you heard from him so far?
Still skating around a little bit. A little tough getting tire temps right now. And it makes it kind of tough to push. So we're trying to address that, adjust the power levels accordingly on it, but he's mostly happy.
Conditions this morning much different than they were from practice yesterday. Does anything from yesterday carry over?
Sure, it does some of it, but it's an adjustment you got to make and adapt to it. But it looks like the rest of the day today and tomorrow are both going to be cooler, so heading in the right direction.
A couple of changes in the offseason make your job as a strategist a little more complicated with the change of the tire allotment, the change of the tire compounds, and also the longer race distance. Do you have any idea what to expect come Sunday?
No, I like that, though, because it's something different for everybody. And, again, whoever can figure it out the best is going to come out on top. And we've had a couple of good events, starting with Christian, and hopefully can continue that momentum with the Arrow McLaren Chevy.
And finally, you mentioned this is Christian's first year with the team. Just had a podium at Thermal the last time out, 4th in points. Has he been what you expected?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a learning experience. We're just going to keep trying to carry on that positive momentum.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, good stuff from Brian Barnhart. Tremendous insight, as always. And you said something early on, Davey, about saying the driver is mostly happy. I can tell you, in recent memory, the only time I ever remember a driver being happy was on Carb Day, the year Elio won his 4th. I mean, he ran about 30 minutes. He pulled into the pit box, and they started to haul the thing back to Gasoline Alley, and they asked him what he wanted done to the car, and he said, don't change the thing. I'm happy with it. I'm going to win the race on Sunday, and he did. Other than that, I don't know that I've ever heard any of you guys say that you're totally happy.
Yeah, and the tricky part of that is competition is so tight right now, and everybody's so close. Even though you think you're happy, then you look up, and all of a sudden there's 3 or 4 guys that may beat you. So, you're always chasing at this point, and being happy is scary to say that, because if you tell everybody how great the car is and how you feel great, then all of a sudden you're 5th or 6th on that timing chart, they're looking at you like, I thought you were good. You know what I mean? So it's that situation where happy is being in the top 5 anymore, I think, Mark.
Well, we want to welcome all of us who join us on a regular basis on Sirius XM, and your driver, Felix Rosenquist, is making his way around the fountain as we speak. And Jay Query, all in all, it's been a pretty good start to the season for Felix Rosenquist. He finished started 3rd, finished 7th at St. Pete, started 9th, finished 5th at Thermal Club.
Felix Rosenquist been very solid so far this season. Works his way, sets up through turn number 7.
It's been lightning quick over the years here at Long Beach as well, as he leaves the right-hander of turn number 8 and heads down that long back straightaway. He's got the points leader, Alex Palou, giving chase. Sits in the top 5 early in points for Felix Rosenquist. He's already down the bottom of the hill into turn 9.
Always a top 10 finisher here on the streets of Long Beach. Pole sitter last year. Can he do it again this year? We will find out as Felix Rosenquist heads down that front straightaway with Alex Palou in tow.
And Will Power heads to turn 1, Jake Query.
Will Power setting up for turn number 1, works his way through it now, and will work his way around the fountain area as Will Power, of course, another of those. Slow start to the season, trying to rebound, trying to get back into that championship form that we have become accustomed to seeing out of Will Power. He has Reedus VK in front of him, but it's by a great distance, about 20 car lengths or so. Power with that Verizon machine, a little bit lighter shade of red this time, sets up now, works his way, dives down low through turn number 7.
Here comes Will Power to the right-hander of turn number 8. He's given chase to both Santino Ferrucci and Rinus VK, who are out there turning quick laps. So far in timing and scoring, Will Power looking for some speed. He is 7th fastest on the brakes and accelerating out of turn number 9.
And everybody's starting to woe it down. Rinus VK trying to gap himself. That will cause Santino Ferrucci to slow down and bogs everything up for Will Power. Will said, well, enough's enough. It's a contract year. I got to get myself in a better position, and considering these opening 2 races of 2025, he'll pull it into pit lane and go back to the attention of that Verizon crew.
And the good news is, Davey, team has effected repairs, and we assume that he's happy with the race car because Scott Dixon's back out turning laps of that PNC bank machine.
Yeah, he ran a good lap before he hit that wall. And by the way, that's Scott Dixon-like. I mean, it's really an odd place to get into the wall. A driver's right there going into that corner, and just surprised that he actually hit that wall. I don't know if he was focusing on something or changing something in the car, but you just usually don't see him that far to the right. So first of all, big surprise that even happened. But you're right, that team, one of the best in the business, obviously, and Scott's one of the right there best in the business as well. They got a fix. He's going to get back out there, and the most important thing with this fix is he gets on track. He fills it, make sure they got everything right. It's back together. All the little repairs they had to make, it makes the car feel good again, because you never know when you hit something like that. It could have a bent shaft in your damper. There's a lot of little things that could go wrong. Now, if it's good now, they'll go back to the garage. They'll dissect it again, make sure everything is absolutely perfect for qualifying.
Cars coming out onto the track, sandwiching their way in between Kyle Kirkwood and the car running just in front of him, working his way around the fountain now. So there'll be about 4 cars running together as they make their way around the fountain, as we're starting to see, Nick Yeoman, especially through 8, 9, and the interest in 10, a little bit of traffic here and there as we get down to the 16-minute mark of the session.
Yeah, also starting to see some daring passes down in turn number 8 as well. That's a really good portion of the racetrack. After they leave Jake Query's view, you're heading downhill, so you're picking up speed and you're carrying a lot of momentum, and that's where we've seen some drivers collide. There's a tire barrier to the outside of that corner, but we're really starting to see guys push the issue and try to find some speed through that portion of the racetrack. Scott Dixon navigating that right-hander right now, Mark, and he's on his way down the back straightaway in that PNC Bank car.
And Michael Young, we talked a little bit about some of the things that could unfold at the pit exit. But, that pit entrance could get a little dicey, too, especially if cars are side by side through that hairpin. Somebody's going to have to keep their head on a swivel, because that entrance to the pits here at Long Beach is just at the exit of that hairpin turn.
I'd call it maybe 60, 70 yards. Once you exit the hairpin, the entrance to pit lane is right there. So it's extremely tough to get through this portion of turn 11, this course as well. So you're extremely slow. You're getting up and trying to bang your way through the gearbox, getting up to speed. Well, you've got guys setting up to go to pit lane. If they don't get to driver's right and set themselves to set up for that pit lane, it could really bog things down. And if you've got a flyer and a great exit, exiting turn number 11, it's easy to get into that back gearbox of the guy in front of you. So everybody having to mind their P's and Q's as they exit turn number 11. Lots going on. Not only is it extremely slow, but it can change and get extremely fast at the exit of this turn. Jake Query?
I just saw a huge puff of smoke into the turn number 1 area. I believe it's one of the Aero cars that completely missed that turn. It is Pata O'Ward. Now, he was able to swing things around, Mark, and get himself back on track through the fountain area, but that was hairy for a second there, because he locked up the brakes, swung it around. I thought he actually was going to make contact on the outside of turn number 1, but Pata O'Ward got it in the right direction and does Pata O'Ward things. Gets the car now back on track, and he does so with a good pace now as he works his way through turn number 7.
That runoff area in turn number 1, unfortunately, seemed to have been a popular place in this session, Davey.
Yeah, that is. Between turn 1 and actually turn 9, Mark, those are our 2 runoff areas that get used most generally. And turn 1, I think it's a situation, especially on the starts and restarts, everybody, you try to go in there 2 or 3 wide. It's a bravery test somewhat of getting in there and out break the next guy. And they have to find what that point is, and so a lot of them go off there. Good news is with this racetrack, even though it's a street course, a lot of times street courses, the runoff area is a little sketchy, but they do have 2 nice runoff areas at the end of these long straightaways.
Let's keep an eye on Pata O'Ward. He's at speed this time into turn 1, Jake.
Yeah, this time a little bit more smooth for Pato O'Ward, who is usually very smooth as it is. As Michael had mentioned, he works his way around the fountain area now. He is the 8th fastest in this session as it stands, but he had expressed this morning, Michael mentioned it, the concern just of trying to find the right balance with the new weight, of course, with this year, the very first year they're doing the hybrid fixtures, and now he gets loose through turn number 6, lost it for just a little bit, gathered it back up. Pato O'Ward now through turn number 7.
Yeah, good eye, Jake. That was quite a save by the driver from Mexico. Pato O'Ward, 11th at St. Petersburg, and was very strong with a second-place runner-up finish at Thermal Club. Enters this weekend right there, second in points, chasing after Alex Palou. Pato O'Ward already through turn number 9.
Wasn't extremely happy, as Jake said this morning, with the balance of that car, although he has found speed in it. He takes a tight exit through turn number 11, and he will keep it on course. He will accelerate, start working his way through the gearbox, and crosses underneath the Acura bridge down that front straightaway.
We'll give you the full field rundown now with under 12 minutes remaining in the session. Joseph Newgarden is fastest at a 67.681. Then Christian Lundgaard, then Nolan Siegel, Alex Palou, and Felix Rosenqvist. Christian Rasmussen currently 6th fastest. Then Will Power, Pato O'Ward. Now Graham Rahal finds a little pace. He's up to 9th fastest. Scott McLaughlin 10th. Louis Foster with a good session. He's 11th fastest. Then Kirkwood, Dixon, Erickson, and Alexander Rossi. Devlin DiFrancesco, Colton Herta, Robert Schwartzman, Callum Ilott, and Regis VK through 20th. Then Armstrong, Simpson, Malukas, Rob Daly, Santino Ferrucci, and Jacob Abel through 25th, 26th, and 27th. So, Davey, we're looking at the bottom of timing and scoring, and just like yesterday, it seems to be a struggle for the AJ4 team to find any pace at all here at Long Beach.
Yeah, a little surprising, right? Because they are have a technical alliance with Roger Penske or Penske Racing, and Newgarden, he's first right now. McLaughlin, he's 4th. You got Power in 9th. So those 3 cars are on top of the charts, but whatever that setup is that Penske's helping them with doesn't seem to be calculating with those drivers. I mean, obviously Malukas in 23rd and Ferrucci in 26th. Not good day so far for that AJ Foyt Racing team.
Yeah, we're hopeful that they can have a pretty solid debrief and get things in order before they go qualifying a little bit later on today. And by the way, we will do that at 11:30 local time and 2:30 Eastern time. And then don't forget a final warm-up session on Sunday. That'll be at 9 o'clock local time, 12 o'clock Eastern time, and then flag-to-flag coverage of the 50th anniversary of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. That takes the air at 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4 o'clock Eastern. And Davey, there's always a buzz around this event, but does there seem to be a bit more excitement in the air with this being the 50th anniversary?
Well, yeah, I think so. And I looked at a note yesterday, and they're expecting almost 200,000 people at this event over this weekend, over this 3 days, Mark. So I think that tells you right there that there's excitement in the air. I mean, everybody that's from this area, and, you know, there's a lot of racing history out of California, and it seems like everybody is part of that racing history is here now. I mean, it's a lot of short track sprint car guys, go-kart people. I know some of them came yesterday, had to leave to go race this weekend already. But I tell you, there is some energy in the air for sure.
Let's pick up the rookie Louis Foster, who's looking to find some pace. Hopes to be a good weekend for the driver of the 45 MyJack machine, Jake Query, as he heads to turn 1.
Yep, Louis Foster going to set up for turn number 1, and really a good line. Actually, before swinging it too wide, really cut it down to the inside of turn number 1. Did Louis Foster, works his way now around this picturesque fountain area of Long Beach on a cooler morning than we are used to when we come out here and watch these Indy cars. But Louis Foster works his way now through turn number 5, sets up with Felix Rosenqvist in front of him, swings it just a little bit wide. Nick, once again, that balance in turn number 6 throws the car up just a little bit, but Louis Foster has Rosenqvist just in front of him.
Yeah, he's chasing after Felix Rosenqvist. Felix will pull over to driver's right. He will give the racing line to Louis Foster, headed down to turn number 9. Sporting an interesting, maybe even questionable mustache this weekend. But the rookie, Louis Foster, looks fast, Michael, out of turn 9.
Asked him when did this start. He goes, well, it's been an incremental type of thing. As he is on those softer tires, he exits turn number 11. I won't question the look. It is not of the Lundgaard type of look, but it was a little off-putting for the first time, at least, when I saw Louis Foster this morning.
Interesting to note, Davey, that he is making the decision with 8 minutes remaining in the session to go to those alternates, and we're starting to see the benefits of what they can do for you in a qualifying format because he's gone to P2.
Yeah, how about that? I mean, just that one difference is all he has is that softer compound alternate tire has that extra grip. He's going to make a second lap on it. I don't think the second lap's going to be faster than the first from what all these drivers say, but we'll keep an eye on him as he comes across the timeline.
We get more on that, tires that is, from the pit lane with Ryan Marine.
And it seems like his teammate, Devlin DeFrancesco, is on effectively the same program, albeit a few minutes behind. The number 30 just came into the pits about 30 seconds ago. They've gone ahead and put on a set of the green sidewalled alternate tires, those softer compound tires, and cranked in about 2.5 turns of front wing as well, as Devlin looks for a little bit more pace. But it seems like that Rahal Letterman-Lanigan team is eyeing making some qualifying runs at the end of this practice. Keep in mind, their two BMWs swept the front row in qualifying for the IMSA race coming up later today. So little momentum for the Rahal team across multiple disciplines.
And yet another fast lap, Davey Hamilton, as Louis Foster has now gone to P1.
How about that 107.2, 66.2093, really good lap. And by the way, he did go faster on those alternate tires on that second lap. Very interesting. Most drivers say it was one and done, but one thing that could be contributing to that is this cool weather, keeping those tires a little bit cooler than normal, not overheating those softer tires. So he's going to be on another lap here. We'll see what he can do on the third one.
Colton Herta comes off of the hairpin. He does so at speed, starts to pedal it a little harder now through the start-finish line. Let's welcome Colton Herta to turn one, Jake.
And I will also say Louis Foster last time by, just as Davey was talking about that, as Herta works his way into turn number one, Louis Foster was really off pace by the time that he left the view here of turn number 6. So not sure if he felt like he had seen what he needed to see out of those softer compound tires. With that said, we will await now Colton Herta as he works his way now through turn number 5, sets up now for turn number 6. Starts to swing it just a little bit wide. There's an area in the crowning in the middle of this track that you just want to avoid in turn number 6. Herta does exactly that. Swings it now wide right-hander, turn number 7.
Colton Herta on the primary black tires, so he is trying to pound away here at Long Beach. Down that long back straightaway, Herta enters this weekend 8th in IndyCar points. He's on the brakes, nice and smooth, no smoke, as he gingerly drives that car out of turn number 9.
A little over 5 minutes remaining in this second practice session of the weekend, and it looks like Colton Herta got a poor jump out of that final turn, but gets it back underway. Back end stepped out ever so slightly for Colton, and he's back up to speed as he gets set to cross that start-finish line.
3 cars were tailing him around the racetrack, and the 2 behind him, Kiffin Simpson among those, decided to pull off. Let's pick up Alex Palou, Jake Query. He is bringing that DHL machine into turn number 6.
And he does so behind Jacob Abel. The rear end stepped out just a little bit for Alex Palou. Now sets his way. Right-hander, turn number 7 for Palou.
This is one of the racetracks he has not won at, Alex Palou. Boy, got awful close at the exit of turn number 8 to smacking the outside wall. In fact, his teammate Scott Dixon just lit it up down in turn number 9. Here comes the championship leader, Alex Palou, in those DHL colors.
And Dixon exits turn number 11. Now it's the 51 of Jacob Abel as Alex Palou, our points leader, makes his way down that front straightaway. And he got a nice jump out of turn number 11, closes that gap with Abel down to about 4 car lengths.
Giving the full field rundown with under 5 minutes to go. Louis Foster with a time of, let's see, 67.209. Then Kyle Kirkwood. Now Colton Herta has jumped up to P2, bumping Kirkwood to 3rd fastest. Newgarden, Palou, the top 5. Then Malukas, A.J. Foyt trying to find some speed here at a 67.480. Then Dixon, Lundgaard, Siegel, and McLaughlin, the top 10. Award, Power, Rosenquist, Rasmussen, and Simpson. Rahal Erickson, V.K. Rossi, Devlin DeFrancesco through 20th. Then Armstrong, Schwartzman, Daly, Eilot, Robb, Ferrucci, and Jacob Abel. Davey, what do you make of the fact that we've got less than 4 minutes of the session, and it appears as though Louis Foster's team is the only one that's decided to go with a set of alternates in this session?
Yeah, we see Siegel maybe put some on as well right there, but I think they may be in trouble because he's not much quicker, as you just said, 67.20 to Herta 67.26, and that alternate tire usually gains you about half to 3/4 of a second. So when Colton was to put those on, I think that they would fly by Foster. I think that they're still in trouble with that Rahal Letterman team, but good run for him right now in this session.
Well, let's face it. I mean, they may be taking a page out of the Dale Coyne book that he employed for a few years, that he had some success. They're doing all they can to simply get into the round of 12, maybe?
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, when you're struggling, Abel, Ferrucci, Robb, Isla, Daly, Schwartzman, you know what? You might as well go out with that a sicker set of alternates right off the bat for qualifying, get your car balanced for it. And if you have to put a second set on just to try to get in that top 12, I think that's a victory.
Pato O'Ward making his way toward turn number 1. Jake Query.
Pato O'Ward has had an interesting session here as he works his way through an area where he went through the runoff. O'Ward now around the fountain area, turns 2, 3, 4 combination. Nolan Siegel actually is the car that is going through that area. His teammate Christian Lundgaard just went through turn number 6. So we await now. Here comes Nolan Siegel trying to find a little bit of speed. Starts to swing it wide just a little bit earlier than do most. Coming off of turn number 5, sets down now to the bottom of the racetrack through turn number 6. Nolan Siegel now works his way underneath that Laguna Bridge and in through turn number 7.
Trying to find a little speed in car number 6. It is orange and kind of a slate gray. Easy one to get mixed up with Pato O'Ward. So a big thanks to Arrow McLaren this weekend. That's not confusing at all. As for Siegel, though, he will dive bomb into turn number 9. Nobody around him allows him to accelerate cleanly, Michael, into turn number 10.
And he exits now 10 and enters turn number 11, that hairpin. You know, Louis Foster, when he came through, was extremely quick. Looked like he was the fastest on those alternate tires. Siegel, too, on those alternate tires. Let's see how he did this time by.
We're taking a look at the timing of scoring loop that he cleared it, and it looks like Nolan Siegel has gotten up to 10th fastest, Davey. So, they have what they have at this point.
Yeah, he's going to make one more lap at it, see if we can get. But how about Colton Hurd on those primary tires? He did jump ahead of Foster now, top of the charts at a 67.16, just beating out Foster. But he was able to do that on that primary tire.
So Herta, Foster, Power, Kirkwood, and Newgard in the top 5. Jake Query.
And the caution light just came on. It is a local caution in turn number 1 for a car in the runoff area. It is just out of my view, but no harm, no foul. It was simply one of those that went through the runoff area, went a little hot, waited for traffic to then clear through. It was Scott McLaughlin, works his way now back onto the racetrack, and in doing so, he had to let a couple of cars get past. Those cars happen to include Scott Dixon that just went through this area of turn 6, followed by Santino Ferrucci, then Pato O'Ward, and then after that, it is Kiffin Simpson. Finally, then up to speed goes Scott McLaughlin.
Well, there's no doubt, Davey, that especially in turns 1 and 9, the good news for these drivers seems to be those runoff areas are somewhat forgiving, and they do, most importantly, give them an opportunity to get that thing turned around and get it back going without bringing out a full course caution or a red.
That's right. We talked about before, really wide runoff areas. We see Scott, he knows right off that he just overcooked it in turn 1, trying to find those limits, but was able to, you know, it's really great. They're long. They're able to get the cars slowed down before they have to weave around the tires, the hit tires in those runoff areas. So great runoff areas here at Long Beach.
Again, Davey, though, the second lap on the alternate proved to be the fastest lap for Nolan Siegel as he goes to P1.
Well, yeah, and that could be a situation. I really think it's a situation where, from what these drivers tell me yesterday, it was a lot hotter. The sun was out, and you got one lap. It seems like they can get a couple laps right now with this cooler temperature.
As we wait to hear from the drivers, let's go around the horn and get everybody's picks for the driver that will sit on pole for the 50th anniversary of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Jake Query, your choice to sit on pole later today.
I like the fact that we had some late good laps there from those that we're not used to necessarily saying in that situation. Louis Foster, for example, coming to mind. But I'm going to go with some safety here. I will say that Joseph Newgarden will end up winning the pole here at Long Beach.
How about you, Nick Yeoman?
Yeah, pretty impressed with Colton Hurd. I mean, he's been strong here in the past. He's won races. He's won poles here at Long Beach. And that car looks very, very strong. Fastest driver in this practice session on primary tires. I think that backs up and translates in qualifying. I think Colton Hurd is going to be on the pole.
Michael Young?
That's a pretty good call, Nick Yeoman. So you took my pick. I'll have to think on my feet right here. I'll just go with another one of those Andretti cars, and Kyle Kirkwood kind of he said felt he had a good car anyhow earlier this morning, and really didn't see a lot of speed out of Kyle. I will throw him in there. He finished that session P5. I'll put him on the pole later on this afternoon.
And while Jonathan Grace and Ryan Marine get ready to talk to the drivers and debrief on this session, we'll get their picks. How about you, Jonathan? Who's going to be on pole later today?
I'm going to go with the guy who led first practice, Will Power. 4th in this session. I think the Penske Penske package is really, really strong. I know Newgarden was picked earlier, but I think it's going to be the best qualifier on the grid statistically who's going to be on the pole for Long Beach.
I'm going to slide in before we get to Ryan and tell you stole my pick, but I'm going to join you. I'm going to latch on to that one as well. I think Will Power. I think he worked on race pace today, and I think he's pretty happy with his qualifying setup. How about you, Ryan Marine?
What about Christian Lundgaard? We talked to Brian Barnhart, and he sounded pretty confident. He seemed to indicate that Christian was feeling pretty confident as well. They've had good pace. They've had good form through the first 2 races of the season. How about a breakthrough pole here with Arrow McLaren for Christian Lundgaard today?
And how about you, Davey Hamilton? We didn't leave you too many, but you can latch on to somebody if you want.
No, you know what? I'm gonna go with somebody different too, and I think it's a guy. It was down between 2, and I'm gonna go with Scott Dixon, even though he had issues with his earlier had a crash earlier, obviously going into that corner. I'm gonna say Scott's gonna rebound from that and try to set it on the pole.
So we'll look forward to that a little bit later on today. And let's check in with Jonathan Grace, who's with Louis Foster.
Well, Louis Foster just hopped out of the number 45. Louis, a good session for you. You were one of the early takers on the alternate tires. Not a lot of drivers picked them, but they were certainly quick. You wound up 3rd quickest. What'd you learn on the greens?
Yeah, one of the pros of being a rookie is we get some extra tires, which is nice for sure. So, yeah, I think we learned a good amount. It's been quite a steep learning experience for me, not only being a rookie, but also the first time here at Long Beach. So I think I'm super confident going into quali. The guys have done a really good job. I think we've got the car in the window. I'm just going to chat to the guys about it and see what we can do to improve a little bit more. But I think we're in a good window. I've just now got to go out there and do my job.
Well, best of luck in qualifying this afternoon. That's Louis Foster. He finishes 3rd fastest in this session.
Yeah, he brings up a great point, Davey. Being a rookie, having that extra set makes all the difference in the world.
You kind of forget about that sometimes, but you're right. They have to take advantage of that extra set, and they definitely did that, and why not? So good job. Good thinking by those guys to put them on right now.
So some of the cars and drivers that continue to struggle a little bit, Alexander Rossi, Rinus VK at 19th and 18th respectively. Santino Ferrucci, 21st fastest. Surprised to see Marcus Armstrong 22nd quick. So Will Power fast in the session yesterday, top 5 today. Ryan Marine, how's he feel about his chances for being on the pole later?
Let's ask him. How do you feel about your chances going for pole? The car's been fast in both of the practices.
Yeah, I think, man, if we can just put it all together in qualifying, certainly had a rough trot in qualifying the last couple of races. So just focus and get through each round. That's the key.
Couple of teams elected to go with some green running in this practice. I don't believe you guys did. What was the thought process there?
Well, thought process is hoping to make it to the Fast 6 and have a new set.
All right, Will. Best of luck in qualifying.
God, thank you.
Interesting strategy, Davey, and I think Will Power knows exactly what he wants to do and how he wants to do it today.
Yeah, and I think one thing that he said, you got to focus on each session, and that's what I think he's doing right now. As he said, he struggled a little bit in qualifying, but I think he would have been my pick if I had to pick early. Is Will Power? I think he's focused. It is a contract year. He wants results. We know he can still get the job done, especially in qualifying. So I think they're on top of it.
11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern time. Complete coverage of knockout qualifying of the Firestone Fast 6 before Sunday's 50th anniversary of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. The director of IndyCar Radio is Chris Pollock. On-site engineering and production courtesy of Rick Evans. Master control operations in our Indianapolis studios, thanks to Corbin Lingenfelder. Thanks to Jonathan Grace and Ryan Marine for all of their efforts in the pits. Great calls out on the courts by Jake Query, Nick Yeoman, and Michael Young. For our driver analyst, Davey Hamilton, this is Mark Jane. So long for now from the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.